think going forward, the person that's got the techs owns the market, right? It's kind of a combination between the best marketer, but you could be the best marketer but not have the techs. But if you've got the techs, then you own the market, right? Because whoever can get to the call first.
That's the opening line. You know, in podcasts where they do like a little opening snippet, right? It's like a little 10-second snippet. It'll be you saying that. If you own the techs, you own the market. Boom.
Welcome to the Results Grow podcast for home service professionals, where we chat with business owners and experts to discover what's delivered results to grow and succeed in their business. And now, your hosts, Steve Gadsby and Cary Blackburn.
Hey everyone, Cary here from the Results Grow podcast, the podcast for home service professionals. I'm here with Steve Gadsby as normal, and on this episode, we have Dennis Hammon from Dennis the Apprentice. He's also a part owner of Gene Johnson Plumbing and Heating and Zoom Drain. And this was this will be an extremely fascinating podcast because Dennis talks a lot about how to find good talent, how to keep talent, and how to grow your business by finding and keeping great talent. And I know, Steve, there was a lot of stuff in there that you just were kind of like, well, this is totally different than what a lot of the people that we talk to do.
Oh, it's absolutely fascinating. He has an upside down approach to how almost any company approaches bringing on talent, because it's like in some areas it's almost impossible to attract talent. He's in, I know a lot of areas are bad. He's in the worst, most difficult area to attract tradesmen to your company anywhere in North America that I've seen, anywhere in Canada, anywhere in the States. And he's optimized his entire business around how to attract talent. He has people applying every single day. And, he has an upside down model, and he gets nonstop talent joining his team. And he has a big company. They're doing, they're going for $18 million a year. He got a ton of techs, and he does a really, really good job. He might be the best out of anybody in terms of attracting talent.
I was really fascinated in it. I mean, there's a number of things there that he talks about, but one of the ones saying that his whole goal is not to keep the customer happy, but he obviously want to keep customers happy, but the priority is to keep his techs happy, as opposed to the customers, which most people is like, well, the customer's always right. We got to keep the customer happy. And he's like, no, we're trying to keep the techs happy before we keep the customers happy. So, you just kind of get blown away by thinking that way. But it's probably best that you listen to this podcast and take some bits out of it from here. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Results Go podcast for home service businesses. I'm here today. I'm Cary Blackburn, and I'm here today with my business partner and co-host Steve Gadsby. Steve, say hi to everyone.
Howdy, everybody.
Hey, and today's guest is Dennis Hammon of Dennis the Apprentice, Gene Johnson Plumbing and Heating, and Zoom Drain. Dennis likes to do a lot of things, and he even has his own podcast. Dennis, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Very good. Thanks for having me on.
Great. So, Dennis, tell us about you. Tell us how you got in the industry, and even tell us about your business a bit.
Awesome. How I got into the industry, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, even in high school. And I started out, I did lots of odd jobs. I got into construction, and I was the contractor myself, built 3 new homes from the ground up. And then another contractor myself remodeled 3 homes. They were flips back in 20 years ago. We didn't call them flips back then, but a doctor was giving us money, buying houses and making them. We made them too nice. We did really nice work and took too long, and we only got 3 done and we stopped. Then I got into sales, and I knew my mom always told me, well, if you're gonna, selling will always serve you. And so I got in. I spent plenty of time doing door-to-door sales and telemarketing, and I tried to sell cars for 3 weeks, and did quite a bit of bouncing around there. And then I ended up helping my brother start a CPA firm. We had 2 tables, 2 phone books, 2 phones, 2 whiteboards, and we would just start cold calling different industries like auto mechanics, and setting up appointments for him to go out and do tax planning. And we'd start booking up Friday, and then we'd book up Thursday, and then all of a sudden it was Wednesday morning, and we booked up Wednesday afternoon, and then it was time for him to go. And so then he would have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all booked up.
Nice.
And then we'd start again Monday. And so we did that. And then after that was set up, I really was looking for an opportunity. And my roommate's dad was a mortician. He started calling me, wanting me to do funeral work. And I'm like, no, no, thank you. I want to start a business. And my roommate started saying, well, funeral home is a business. And so anyway, long story short, I got talked into going there and just trying it out. I had no reason. I had nothing else going on, right? So I might as well try it out. I actually really liked it.
So are you a licensed mortician too?
I'm a licensed mortician. Absolutely.
Could you, for the benefit of myself and probably most people listening, what exactly does a mortician do? Like I know roughly, but it's like,
Yeah. So you can be a funeral director where you're meeting with families, arranging the funeral, and then doing the funeral. It's kind of like a wedding planner, right? If you on the other side of the wedding planner is the funeral director. Very similar projects, lots of emotion, lots of expectation. It's got to go really well. It's got to happen one time, except it's on the sad side. But it also can be a celebration of life, right? And you want that to go well.
Interesting.
So that's the funeral director side, and then the embalmer side is what you do with the body. So you've got to make mom look like mom, right?
Right.
And that people can have a nice have closure and say goodbye. A lot of people don't realize this, but death can be really hard. And a lot of times people don't really look like themselves. They'll look very good, or they don't. It's been a while. They've been in hospice and all that. And so it's really a wonderful gift to give the family back their loved one at rest, looking like themselves and at peace. So that's really what an embalmer does.
So the
mortician side is, sorry. So
yeah, so mortician does both.
Oh, okay. So
mortician does both.
So that's the encompassing term for both of those roles.
Yeah, typically.
And why didn't you? So you were interested in business. You knew how to do sales. You have a very niche skill that's probably highly profitable. Why didn't you just become a funeral home and blow out that business?
So I wanted to do that. I had written up business plans. I don't come from money. Didn't have any money. How do you start a funeral home, Steve? I mean, you cold call out of the phone book and say, hey, have I got a deal for you? Friday, I got someone come available on Friday to come out at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock or 11 o'clock?
Somebody recently died in your family?
Or you don't put out an A-frame thing on down the avenue and say, hey, funeral home right here, new funeral home.
Very hard to start small in that industry.
So I could not fathom how to get something started. And the last thing I was doing, I'd done a few, we'd rented a yacht and we'd gone out in the Puget Sound and done a scattering, cremation scattering. That was really nice. And so we were and real estate was really expensive in Seattle. We thought it was expensive 20 years ago, right? It was just unfathomably expensive 20 years ago. And that's laughable today. But I was looking at buying a yacht and living on a yacht. I had 2 little girls, and that was my last consideration. But that's really how I got into plumbing. My father-in-law was Gene Johnson Plumbing.
Oh, okay, got it.
So he had some heart issues, and so we were hunting 2001, fall of 2001, and he said, hey, I could really use your help with your business acumen over in the plumbing company. And I thought, well, if I can embalm, I can do anything.
And how big was the company when you first started? Like where was it at that point in time?
Our first goal when I got there, I said, okay, Dad, what's our goal? Like I'm a pretty driven person and goal oriented. And he's like, I've never been to $2 million. Let's hit $2 million. And so that was our first number I started talking about was, okay, we're going to go to $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was I turned my 2 weeks in when he offered that. I was going to become a plumber. I'm really hands-on. I like to know how to do everything. And I was going to become a plumber first and then move into sales and end up with an opportunity to buy into the company. And 3 months later, he had a heart attack, another one. Wow. And so 3 months after I got there, I was in charge of doing all the estimating and the sales side and the outside part. And my sister-in-law, his oldest daughter, I'm married to his second daughter. We became partners, and she handled all the in-office, payroll, accounting, insurance, all that. She kept the books, and I did the sales side.
Yep, that's the right place to be. You want to be on the sales side of things. Otherwise, yeah.
It's interesting, me never being one who's owned an HVAC or a plumbing company, being on the marketing side, Steve obviously being on the other side, is that the most successful ones that I've spoken to, or we've even done on the podcast, are ones where their start into it was sales, and then they learned how to do the hands-on tech stuff instead of the other way around. And it's interesting that I see with you is the same type of thing, that I don't hear too many people like, oh yeah, I was an HVAC tech and then I became a business owner. It's kind of the other way around, just that sales experience is really what grows those businesses more so than being, hey, I'm the best tech ever. I can, look at the work I do, but that doesn't necessarily translate into growing your business.
Yeah, I think that's why there's a lot of one-man shops out there, little small shops that kind of bounce around one or two techs and they struggle, is they don't have the sales piece down. The thing is when you are a funeral director running a plumbing company, I loved my plumbers, right? I can't get all upset about a guy, and I can't fire him and finish the job myself, right? I would have been if I owned a funeral home, I would have been a different owner, because I'm very particular. I am the best. I am very good. I care very much about how things go.
Right.
But owning a plumbing company, I love my plumbers. As long as we pass inspection and things are straight and the customer's happy and paying us, 2 thumbs up, right?
Right. Yeah, and you kind of can't micromanage them because you don't necessarily, you probably know what to do, but like a lot of times, like you can't go too far in the weeds, because that kind of lets you manage and run your company more than, that's actually, it's a weird little fail safe there. So
yeah, no, it really worked, because I remember going in with jobs and everything was happy, and then Dad would say, why do you run the pipe, this way? It would have saved you 3 joints and saved you an hour.
Right.
And then you could it just deflated the balloon, right? The balloon, and the guy's ego just went, right? It's just like, oh, and I could feel it. But, Dad was right. And the plumber's acknowledging that, I didn't think of it. Because I didn't think of it, you're probably right. And so I could just see that. And so they never got that with me. And so it just kind of creates a different culture. And I learned as a good funeral director, mortician, I valued the autonomy of being left alone to do my craft, and do my thing. And so I knew the plumber did too. And so leaving them alone, they liked to work for me because I treated them like the craftsmen they were, and I valued their work and their skill set, and it worked really well.
It almost sounds like the know what you don't know side of things, right? Knowing that you don't know the exact craft of the plumbing side, whereas you let the experts deal with that, but you dealt with kind of what you were best at.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
And where's the business at now? Like in terms of kind of like, we'll fill in the middle and kind of how you got there, but like say like employee count, or like revenue wise, or like kind of like where you at currently, or maybe like what your goals kind of for next year, or whatever you want to chat about there.
Sure. Now, so we've been at it for 22 years, and we've doubled in the last 3. So we bumped around, we built up to 3 million, and then the 2008 recession happened to us. We got cut in half and then cut again. And then we rebuilt, and we wanted to do it right, and we wanted to build it stable. And so we took our time and got our systems in place. In the last 3 years, it's really started to take off, last 3 or 4 years. And so this year we'll end up probably around 13 million or so.
Nice.
So we have a Zoom Drain franchise where we slough off all our drain work to Zoom Drain.
Right.
Just because the plumbers, it was really hard to get a plumber to do a drain call at 3 o'clock. And why would I have a licensed plumber doing a drain call anyway?
Right.
So combined, we're about 13 million, and our goal next year is 18.
Nice.
Wow.
And then like, what does your day look like on a day-to-day basis? So like, if you're like 0 to 2 million, you're in the trenches, you're in the weeds all the time, like what does, and obviously as you grow, you step farther back. You're probably not doing sales. You're probably not running the office. you're not. So like, what does your day look like as, running a 13 to $18 million operation there?
Yeah, so we've bought into the Traction, the book Traction, and the EOS, entrepreneur operating system operation system. And so like I'm the visionary person, and my partner Kimberly, she's the operations manager.
Yep.
So she's the integrator. She's the one that makes it all work. So she's much more involved day to day. She knows how to do the price book, and she knows what's going on with payroll. We have managers now. We have an operations, we have a controller for the finance side. We have a manager for the CSRs. We've got a manager for the dispatchers, and then we have 2 service managers, and then we've got a general manager for the Zoom Drain branch. So my day to day is pretty like doing this kind of thing. On last Thursday, I talked to 2 different classes, high school classes, about the trades and getting into the trades.
Oh, cool.
I'm the president of PHCC in Washington, so hosted a membership meeting Thursday night, and so I'm more involved in the bigger picture stuff.
Yep.
And I'm still involved with the culture. Like I try to meet with every one of my people and hear what their goals are, and then help them accomplish their goals, and then celebrate when they do.
I like that.
Yeah.
And does it, I mean, like, what if they say their goal is to ultimately be a competitor of yours one day? It's like, is that something that you get asked sometimes, and how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I welcome it. There's something I've been trying to figure out. Are you familiar with the E-Myth by Michael Gerber?
Yeah. Randy Gerber, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Gerber.
Michael Gerber.
Michael Gerber. So, that I think a lot of guys have a seizure, an entrepreneurial seizure, that they're good at this. Their wife starts talking to them. Their customers start talking to them, and you should start your own thing. And there's some pressure to go that way. And I think one of the reasons is because there's a ceiling at wherever business they're at. There's a ceiling. So I've always thought that we are obligated to grow so that our top people have somewhere to grow into.
Yep.
So one thing is I don't get that much, because we're growing aggressively enough that there's a place for you to be if you're interested. If you've got an entrepreneurial itch that is truly legitimate and you can't stop itching, and you got to scratch that, then by all means go. I do a thing called the one-man shop exercise. I learned this from Kenny Chapman. He's a blue collar coach, the Blue Collar Success Group. He was at Nexstar when I first discovered flat rate, like 2005, 4 or 5. And he did a one-man shop exercise, and like we all agreed that it wasn't working. That's why we were there, to learn about flat rate. And that was eye-opening, because if he hadn't done that with us, we couldn't have gone from, when I started, we were $88 an hour, or 22 hours every quarter hour or portion thereof, right? And so I do that with all my employees. Like this week, tomorrow, we'll be doing a one-man truck exercise with a couple new plumbers, a couple apprentices, and even some office staff, a CSR and a dispatcher. And I break down, I tell them exactly what it takes they put all the numbers up, and what do you think it takes to buy a truck and insurance and all that. And we make their own flat rate price for a electric water heater.
Right.
And I teach them what goes into that. What's interesting is I had a service manager that's been away from me for 3 or 4 years, and I had a tech move to Florida. And so they made, his wife got a job in Florida, so he had to move. And they just connected and formed a partnership to start a business, which is great, right? Go for it. And we started getting phone calls like, you know how much they want for insurance? And it's like, yes, we talked about this, right? It's no surprise, but
reality hitting, yeah.
They don't obviously hear it as in depth as until you actually do it, right?
It is one of the big benefits that you get out of doing that exercise. It gets them to sort of they need to know how expensive it is to be able to sell it more easily too. So it's like if they really know that these are the core costs, it's easier to say, hey, it's going to be X dollars, like a higher price, and they know that it's not like they. There's kind of people, or I think staff or various people think that, oh, you're selling it for X thousands of dollars and half of that's profit, and it's going in Dennis's pocket, and Dennis is just going to the bank with all of this, and like there's a big misperception about it.
100%. Yeah. So the first reason I do it is so that people understand why we're charging what we charge and what all goes into that, and how small the profit there typically is.
Yep.
And then I want even our phone people, because our phone, think of a, we'll have a young person maybe going to college, and so they're 19 or 20 or 21 years old answering a phone, and they're hearing about a $2,800 water heater. The customer is upset about it. Well, they'd be upset too. It's like $2,800, right? And so, or whatever the numbers are.
Yep.
And so we want them to understand that they're not working for a crazy company, but this is, yes, that is how much it costs, or whatever the numbers are.
Right.
So I discovered that about 2 years ago. I'd never done it with the office. And then I did it with one of the office, and their eyes lit up. And they're like, we all need to hear this. And so now I do it with every single employee.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, not only does what you're doing help them if they ever want to become an entrepreneur themselves, but they also get a better idea of how your business is working, and that they're not just, like Steve said, funneling money into your pocket, that there is, all these other expenses on top of what it takes to do these installs or these repairs or whatever, so that they kind of go, oh, well, we're not, for lack of a better word, getting screwed by our employer. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So the feedback I got, those two guys went to Florida and started their business, and they all of a sudden a truck wrap and insurance, and they're just quite overwhelmed. And it's kind of comical. They come back to us, and we just hear all this, how much everything's costing. And Kimberly and I are looking at each other like, did they not learn anything here? Like we talk about this all the time. But now I had another employee that moved, and I was wishing him well. And I said, you never know. I go, you're always welcome back. Right. Or a guy like you might start your own business someday. And he's like, no. I'm not doing that. Yeah. I've been talking to those guys in Florida, and no, thank you. So,
well, that's interesting, because both Steve and I run across people that we work with or we hire that you can tell right away that they are happy being employees and probably best being employees. And then there are others you go, well, this person could actually be an employer with how they manage things.
Right.
You just see that. I'm sure you see that too with some of the people that you work with.
Absolutely. And I don't know. In 22 years, I've only had one guy go off and sustain a business. I've had a few guys leave and try it. They're doing it under the table. They don't have licenses.
Right.
I see their Facebook pages, and they're taking trips to Italy.
Yeah.
And they're selling up the hot tubs. And I'm like, you can afford that. Right.
Yeah.
It's not your money.
And then they're not necessarily really competitors, because they're not actually exposed and even findable, and they're not running ads, so they're kind of invisible to 99.9% of the market. So they're not really competitors. But
exactly, yeah, not even. So one guy, he moved to Alaska, and he's like a 1-man or 2-man guy. He does mostly new construction remodel work, and I know he's busy up in, I think he's in Kodiak, Alaska, kind of a tighter market. And he's been going for probably 15 years. But I don't know of anybody. We do have one plumber that left here, and he's building a business in Texas, and he will do well. He's one of those guys that he's got to be on his own. He's a leader. He's an type A personality, and it's his way. His way is very good, right? And so he will do really well, and he's on his way. But that's the only one in 22 years.
Right. A little interesting thing we think is interesting that we'd like to cover. Usually growth in your revenue is also you're trying to solve problems. So there's probably some problem that you need to solve, or a set of problems to go from 13 to 18 million. Yours will be, we talk to a lot of smaller contractors. Yours will be, yours probably is going to be interesting or different than a lot. So what problems are you either currently dealing with or that you need to solve to get to 18, do you think?
Yes, kind of. I think we're in the middle of, I had a lot of personality. I did a lot of fun cultural stuff with our company when we were smaller, and we built a really tight group of guys. And we had each other's backs, and we were really tight. And we were up to like $5 or $6 million that way. And I think I managed I was at 13 techs. And then when we bought the Zoom Drain franchise, that's when I couldn't do it. I couldn't be the service manager anymore. And with that, as we grow, I'm not able to be in touch with everything. And so some guys that remember that long for those days when it was more personable and we were all on the same team. And I just heard maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, the people that thrive in a small company like that are not the same people that thrive in a bigger company,
Hmm.
and that there will be a turnover of personnel that match that culture. And I've been trying to scale the culture, and I've done it for a little bit, but as I add managers, what I notice is they can't be me.
Nope.
And I can tell them to do things, but if they do them, they're not theirs, they're me, and then it doesn't come out right.
Yeah.
So that's been really interesting. And it's it's hurt my heart a little bit, right? Like I had this really, really tight culture, and I did things and I knew exactly why I did them and what the result would be. And
And you had close contact with all of them and a steady
yeah,
communication, and you probably you knew when to praise somebody, and you knew, to not say certain things to certain people. It was a very tight knit little group, and then as it's growing, you have to kind of become more of a bit of a corporate feel, unfortunately. So it's
yeah.
interesting. You brought up culture a number of times, and it seems like how you're trying to sort of solve for having that same feel is to keep infusing the culture of the business. Maybe speak more to culture, and like what kind of what your goals are, or what you're doing towards that.
Yeah, one of our values is kindness. So like in a plumbing company, yeah, it's tough out there, right? These guys are getting beat up. They have customers telling them the price is too much. Their wife or girlfriend's upset that they're not home on time, and they're working late another night, that kind of thing. And so I think kindness is really, really important. And then an appreciation for their efforts. Like that was one thing that was unique about our company. There wasn't anybody else here in the Seattle area that wasn't a plumber that ran a company for the most part. Most companies were started by a plumber. And so they kind of had that core, that, that top line hardness, like do it my way. My way's the right way. You're not better than me. I could have done it faster. And so I brought a completely different vibe to my business and culture. And that attracted people that wanted that autonomy, that did really good work and wanted to be respected for it and praised for it. And I was the guy to do that, right?
Right.
So now letting that go a little bit, I still, when I see somebody hit a goal, like I'm in tune with what the goals are. I'm in tune with people, what people's are trying to achieve. And then I'll let my managers know, like, hey, John, did you see Johnny just doubled his conversion rate was 46% 2 weeks ago, and it was 67% last week. That was a huge jump. Like, sure, you tell him that you noticed, right?
I like that.
So I call myself the dream manager. I'm trying to help people bring their dreams to fruition, and not everybody participates, right? Some people write their goals, make more money, make more money, make more money. It's kind of like leave me alone. But the people that do share that with me, I can then know what's going on, and then I can poke my managers and say, hey, pay attention. He made his goal.
Kind of like it kind of interweaving this conversation, it kind of seems like you have a core kind of philosophy, like a sort of like an operating system for life that you're sort of basing your decisions from. Like when you mentioned, it kind of seems like you are legitimately and actually wanting to sort of help these various people develop and grow. Maybe like speak to your, like, what is your kind of core philosophies towards life, and kind of how that's seeping into the business, because that's my guess and kind of where you're coming from, if I'm correct.
Sure. Well, in today's market, these plumbers, tradespeople in general, can work wherever they want. So I feel honored that they choose to work with us. And so I don't actually think they're working for me. I think they're working for themselves, actually.
That's such an upside down way of the old school of looking at business. It's like the old school way of looking at business is like, hey, I give you a job, I pay you a salary, do your jam job. I mean, that's the old school, way of looking at things. You have the inverse of that. I'm honored that you're working for me. That's so interesting.
Yeah, I'll drive to my shop and I'll see all these guys happy and putting their trucks in there, putting their trucks together and taking off. And I'm like, it's amazing now when we never left. Like, we were pretty hardcore. We didn't leave. I didn't go to trade shows and stuff like that until 3 years ago. I'd have friends beg me to go to the wet show, and they would be there and they'd send me pictures. And like, I don't have time for that. And I didn't feel comfortable leaving, actually, because I've got my guys working for me. I can't go play. And so now I go to the trade show and I just look at the numbers, and people are working just as hard when I'm not there. And I just marvel at that. But what they're doing, what I think, is that they're actually working for themselves still. And we've created a business and enough calls and the right kind of customers that they can charge a price that they can feed their families on, and they continue to choose to work for us every single day. And I marvel at that, but I hope we never lose that feeling of appreciation that we're working together. They choose to work with us, and we create an operating system, and we answer the phone for them, and we schedule the calls for them, and we take care of payroll for them, and we pay the insurance for them. So they're free to do and practice their artwork. That's kind of really how I couch it. I want to free them up to do their artwork, which is calm a customer down, offer some solutions, and do beautiful work, and then brag about it.
Hey Steve, before we get to your next question, we should talk about how home service business owners can be freed up to do their artwork without having to worry about managing their own online lead generation. If you are a business owner, you know how much of a pain it is to learn and then figure out how to drive leads to your business through online marketing. Whether you are in the HVAC, roofing, artificial turf, or renovation business, Results Grow can help you. Our team of home service industry online marketing experts will help you with unlimited low-cost leads from social media advertising, getting your business in front of hundreds or thousands of people each day, complete ad design by our home service design and marketing experts, immediate and automated text message and phone follow-ups, exclusive and not shared leads only for your business, plus no long-term commitments. You can cancel at any time. All of this with a 100% don't pay until you get your first lead guarantee. Don't just take it from us. Listen to what Oscar from Eco Air in California says about our HVAC experts at HVAC Grow and how they helped him.
I've been with HVAC Grow for about 2 years now. Before I joined HVAC Grow, I was at about 100,000 in sales. Then the first year that I grew with HVAC Grow, I got up to 300,000. The next year, 700,000, and now we're almost at 2 million. So, and it's all solely through marketing with HVAC Grow. So it's been crazy. So very grateful for you guys.
Book a free consultation with us here at Results Grow and see how we can help you, whether it's HVAC, roofing, renovations, or more. The consultation is absolutely free. Head over to resultsgrow.com/free. We want you to be free to do and practice your artwork without having to do your own marketing. Whether you are tired of throwing money away on marketing that doesn't work, or even tired of trying to do marketing on your own. If we discover we can't help you with your marketing during our consultation, we won't waste your time or your money. Go to resultsgrow.com/free. That's resultsgrow.com/free. Now, back to the podcast.
No, I love it. Because I mean, Seattle, from what I've seen, is probably the most difficult labor market in the country in terms of getting guys, which probably leads back to your, it's part of the motivation towards your podcast, is it? Is like, it's sort of like you need a stream to bring in high quality talent onto your, and it's also to help and everything else. But is that kind of one of your motivations towards it, is to create a stream of incoming techs to you?
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's probably 5 years ago, me and Kimberly decided to quit, literally to ban the complaint of not being able to find good help. We just banned that from our vocabulary.
I like it.
And we're just going to build our own. So what we decided was we're going to build our own, because that's something we can predict. We can bring if we got a right attitude and aptitude, we can bring someone in and we can build them up and train them. And we'll have, in 2 or 3 years, we'll have a nice tech. So we can count on that, and we can budget and plan for that. And then and then once in a while, we'll attract someone that falls into place. What usually happens is they come from out of state. Their wife got a nursing job, or their wife works for Google or Amazon, and Seattle's a huge hub for tech. So that's what we discovered, is people are moving to Seattle, and we would have someone would reach out to us from North Carolina or Wyoming or Florida, whatever, and they're moving to Seattle in a month or two. And so I'd answer that ad right away, and I'd stay on top of that and build that relationship, and send pictures of our training labs and that kind of thing. Stay in touch, and they would come and work for us. And so all of a sudden, I've got this beautiful tech that's so glad to be here out of nowhere. Yeah. But it's not out of nowhere. I attracted them from a long ways away, right?
Right. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Even that approach, you said you send them pictures of like the training room. You are more in the mode of selling text to get here, because it's such a common complaint that we hear from different companies. Oh, there's no way to hire. Oh, there's no way to hire. And it's like all that they're doing, they're going on Indeed or Craigslist and they're posting, here's the X dollars that we pay, here's this is it, call me. And you're going from the, hey, get to know me. I'm a good guy to work for. I honor my staff. We have an amazing training facility. It's like, so you go the opposite approach. So that's really interesting. I think you have a really unique angle there in terms of attracting talent in the hardest market in the United States to attract talent. And I'm sure other people will disagree with me, but I think it comes back to wages. Like the wages in your area is extremely high, and that's an indicator of how competitive the labor market is.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve, we just had this meeting with PACC Thursday about what can we do to attract people into the trades or attract plumbers. And the crazy thing is I get about 10 applicants a week of people that want to work for us, mostly apprentices. But once in a while, a person's got 1 year, 2 year, once in a while it says 6 years and they're moving to the area, or they work somewhere else, but they heard about us or the buddy told them about us. And so literally I have someone that puts their hand that knocks on my door and wants to work for us every day of the week. It's hardly a day goes by where I don't have an apprentice or some kind of experience.
You're doing it right. And you're going to grow faster than everybody for it. Sorry, Cary, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, then there must be some sort of word of mouth or some sort of way that the information about how you are running your business and how are you attracting techs and attracting employees the word must be getting out, because that's how you're getting all of these applicants. They must think, wow, this is a different place to work. This is the type of place I want to work at.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, it's kind of like a TV commercial. You don't really know where it comes from. That's part of the problem with social media, is you don't really know where it comes from. But yeah, for about 4 years, I've got a guy that comes in once a week and hangs out with the guys and goes out on job sites with them and makes a really cool video. And I'm kind of highlighting the tech doing the work and, putting him on a pedestal, and then that he works here. Right. So I'm doing the two things. I'm building the tech up and showing off how cool he is. And then a little bit about our company. And I've been doing that for about 4 years. There's a steady stream of social media content on Facebook and Instagram. And then I've just started podcasting last year, really, but most of my efforts have been Dennis the Apprentice on Instagram. I generally put out a 1-minute tip on how to get more out of your apprenticeship on Instagram every morning on my way to work out of my truck. So
sorry, go ahead. So I was going to say, so if you were to say to an employer comes to you and says, Dennis, I'm having a heck of a time trying to find people to work for me. And from the vibe I'm getting from you is that, yeah, you'd probably tell them, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that it's more than just the cash. It's more than what you're paying them. There's got to be more than that to get them to come to your business.
Yes. What I tell people is there's almost every shop has a catch-all back corner shed thingy where all the toilets that we didn't sell that we thought we sold, or the water heater that we pulled out after 2 days for some weird reason, and the toilet lids that we don't want to throw away. And almost every shop, mom and pop shop, has an area where it's just a bunch of crap.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We had the same thing. So we operated for most. I'm just now in my new shop, and for 20 years we were in this little house that was turned into a shop, and in the back, so it's 40 feet long and 10 feet back, so about 10 feet by 40 foot section. And it had like a garden, those Ripley plastic roofs that are like on a garden shed. It had that for a roof, and it's just full of crap, literally. And once we made this commitment, I looked at that and I'm like, I can make a training room out of this. And we had two things. We had a code class. So here's the two things I tell people to do. We have a code class Wednesday morning from 6:30 to 7:30 before our service meeting, and where we're teaching code. I've got a licensed plumber teaching code 1 hour a week. We do that like religion. Like I can count in the last 20 years on one hand the times we've missed that meeting. It's always going on. And when we went through COVID, it went online virtually. But that became a hub, and it was kind of a meeting place, and the plumbers would even show up for that. They'd have their breakfast while we're teaching code, and just to stay with it. We're kind of building this core of like, hey, we really value education. And then Thursday nights we had hands-on training where we did more of a talking about a disposal or have someone in to talk to us about disposals or whatever. Well, when I saw that area in the back of our shop, I had this vision that it could be a live lab. So when Dad wasn't around, I literally threw everything away. Threw it all away. New, used, but
it's so hard because it's like, well, we could do this with it. Yeah, you tossed it all.
yeah, but it's just like we are so busy, right? Like you can't get to that. Like that's a good idea, but we can't get to it.
Yeah.
And so I literally threw it all away, and I turned that Thursday night training hands-on into we're going to build our own live training lab. So I literally bought pizza at 5 o'clock and beer. I did supply Coors Light to start with, and it was beer and pizza. And then we built that together on Thursday nights. And the tenants would show up, and the licensed plumber would be there. And we built the waste work, and it ended up with it had 3 furnaces, 2 tanklesses, and one combi unit with 3 zones to a hydro radiator, with a blowing radiator. I'm slipping the name at the moment, and then 3 live toilets, and then a tub shower set, and then the other side of what was a rough-in wall with 2x6s that we had the bracket on the top, so we could do a rough-in and then unscrew the 2x6 and pull it out of the bracket and put fresh 2x6s in. So just the act of building that on Thursday nights created this buzz, and then we would talk about it on our social media and stuff. And what happened is other one-man shops started to show up, and we realized, one-man shop guys that leave a company and go start a shop, they're lonely. They used to work with a bunch of guys, and now they're out by themselves and they're not talking to anybody. So we started just welcoming everybody to come, and we have that little area would just get packed with people, and sometimes
Cool.
it'd be
It's like a social
one-man shops there.
Interesting.
Yeah,
It's like
but it created this buzz.
Yeah.
And no one else was doing it.
Just to come and hang out. Totally.
Yeah.
Did it also become sort of a way for techs and others to say, hey, look at this way that I do this, to kind of share that, almost like a show off, say, hey, look at this quick way I've found to do this or whatever, or this really cool way to make this look neater? Are you finding that others are doing that as well there?
Yeah, that's always happening. We had a kind of, at first we wanted everybody to come, and it kind of happened where all of a sudden we had our whole company was showing up Thursday night. I'm buying pizza and beer, right?
Yeah, right.
But what happens is all of a sudden you got 23 people there, and only one person's doing the work, and it's usually the guy that already knows how to do it.
Right.
And he's showing, look how cool I am. It's like, so then we had to make a rule like, no, if you've ever done it before, you can't do it. This is for apprentices. That you can guide the apprentice, but let the apprentice own the project that we're doing and guide him along and talk to him. And so yeah, it created this buzz and this culture in our company that we were, and they took pride in building their own lab. And that's really one of the key things that really got things going. And then what happened? I interviewed this guy. He's licensed journeyman plumber. He can work wherever he wants. He's had 5 or 6 interviews today. I'm his last interview. And at the end of it, I go show him our life training lab. And he walks in, he's like, oh, this is where I want to work.
That's cool.
And sold. And I'm like, oh, interesting. So what we had started to do was attract plumbers that appreciated the training, and or get this, most of these guys want to leave a legacy. There's a longing in our heart to pass on what's been so good to us to someone else. Like some young person that will you please listen? Like I've got all this wisdom. I'd like someone to take it.
Interesting. So you're helping facilitate them being teachers, because you're right. That is built into especially like a highly skilled tradesman who knows years and years and years of just intricate niche little info. They want to share that. interesting. So you're given an outlet for these people to pass on their knowledge, especially if they don't have like a kid that's into it or something. That's fascinating. That's
Yeah, and it worked. And then so we started to attract people that wanted to leave it. And they don't say this. They don't even know those words, right? They're not saying, I sure wish someone would come around to help me leave a legacy.
right.
But once they realize it and see a young person soaking it up and you can see their eyes light up, like I talk about all the time to apprentices, like one interested young person can change a company. Because if they haven't had one around for a while, kind of people get dull and they're tired and they're working hard and their backs are tired. And what they don't realize that they're getting more and more discouraged that there's no one coming along behind them. And one interested young person can change a company from the bottom up. Because as soon as they show interest and pay attention and start buying their own tools and learning how to use them, and then saying, hey, I was on this blog, they said that I was watching this blog or vlog, or I was on YouTube and they said to do it this way. Why do you do it that way? All of a sudden the guy wakes up and he's got to defend the way he does it. He's like, well, I never do that. And they start collaborating, and it can literally change a company from the bottom up.
It is also a total game. Like I remember being, I was probably 19 years old at the time, and I'd got into the trade, I was like, say 17, I was probably 20. So I'd been doing it for like 3 years. And I was like, I was like, so like, I kind of almost like half self-taught, barely like kind of soldering stuff, like doing stuff, how I thought it should be done. I thought I was doing decent. And then I worked one day with this journeyman, like a very, very good plumber on this boiler system up in this attic in some commercial space in Vancouver. And then I watched him do it for like 5 minutes, just a weird little way of how he did it, how he soldered, how he kind of attacked. It changed everything. I never went back to how I was doing it before. So it's like, you can do it for years, and seeing a professional do it how it should be done changes everything. It's like, and then I've used that ever since, from like 5 minutes of watching a professional, how they do it. So I think you have really interesting perspectives on the people side of the business. Jump into another subject. So what do you do for marketing, or Cary, if you want to jump in here too, if you have a question related, what is your marketing strategy? What do you, obviously a component of going from 13 to 18 is going to be a different marketing perspective, or what are you doing for that? Or like what works for you, what doesn't work for you, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, I think going forward, the person that's got the techs owns the market, right? It's kind of a combination between the best marketer, but you could be the best marketer but not have the techs. But if you've got the techs, then you own the market, right? Because whoever can get you the call first.
That's the opening line, in podcasts where they do like a little opening snippet, right? It's like a little 10-second snippet. It'll be you saying that if you own the techs, you own the market. Boom.
But here's
they're the limiting factor, except trucks. Right now, I can't get trucks, right?
trucks is
nobody can.
I'm driving my people crazy because I've got two more applicants this weekend. I've got a guy that wants to come in tonight. I got to call him back and say, hey, it's Halloween. I forgot it was Halloween. I've got a guy tonight, and I've got a guy coming in tomorrow that want to work here, know about us, and I don't have a truck for them. But here's the deal. We're going to interview them anyway. We're going to take them through our process, and we're going to show them our labs, because I have a really nice lab. I have a phenomenal lab at my second location, because just 2 years ago during COVID, we bought a second location and put in because of our experience with the first little lab, we put a ton of money into we have a whole basement, 2,200 square feet of live training lab. And I'm going to take these two techs through our whole process. Whether they work here or not, they're going to take that experience and they're going to talk to whoever they work with next about us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I continue to, even though I don't have a truck for them, and maybe now we're to the point, I've been trying to warn people that one of the things I fear is that it's been like, there's just plenty of work for everybody, right? And so everybody kind of works and they kind of get sloppy in their processes. And I like to tell them, this is the tryouts. Because when the recession gets tight and things get tight and there's not enough calls, I'm going to give them to my best people.
Mm-hmm.
So like right now, I just have, please take a call, right? Please take a call. But what they don't realize, a lot of these young guys, they haven't been through a downturn, is this is the tryouts. Like your conversion rate and your average ticket and how often you come to work and how often you hit your numbers. It doesn't really matter today. Like we're always coaching in that, and I want you to be better and better. But there will be a day where I may have to select And I will select conversion rate and average ticket and loyalty and license.
Right. If
Right.
things get too stretched out, it's all hands on deck. But if a 2008 happens or something like that, you're going to have to select the best. You're going to have to keep the top performers on the team. So it's a very it's a light way to put a little bit of pressure on them. It's true. There's nothing untrue about that. So
It's adding competition too, which doesn't hurt.
No, and everybody's trying their best, right? But we do push on that. But I will continue to interview people, and it may be that we get to a point where if I can't get more trucks, I may have to let a low performer go to add. I hate doing that, right? Because I want them to get better and I want them to stay around us. I don't think there's anywhere else to go that's better. I would rather they get better here. But I'm getting to the point where I can't get another truck, but I keep getting applicants coming in. And so
I think that you might, I've talked to other big companies and they are doing nowhere near what you are doing in terms of you have an entire process. It sounds like in your head, you have when an applicant comes in, you're going to do this, this, and this. This is how you're going to convince them. You're going to talk about this. This is what you're going to provide. This is the value. You have an entire process. You are so optimized to bring in talent to your team. I doubt if there's anybody that's as optimized as you are in terms of bringing talent to the team. So really impressive. That's really interesting.
I've never worked anywhere else, right? I just another key thing is as soon as someone responds to as soon as I get an inquiry of some kind, I'll respond right away. Because it seems like these techs kind of tend to have a short attention span. And I've seen guys take a job just because it was the first job offered to him. It's like, wait a second, you're a licensed plumber. You literally can get a job anywhere. Why don't you take a week and see what's out there?
Right.
And they don't do that. A lot of them do not do that.
Is jump in the next opportunity. What percentage of your business is we'll call it service, and what is say equipment changes? So equipment being say even water heaters or water heaters are arguably kind of service, but bigger equipment items where you need a salesperson to sell it versus service, which it gets sold in your office or over the phone or by the tech.
So we're 100% service.
100% service.
I used to do all that.
That is a staggering amount of service. For, with us, we did 800 installs a year, probably 10% of our entire revenue was service. You are all service. That is a staggering amount of service.
Yes, I have no salesperson. So
wow.
And that is something we're looking at though, because maybe 20 years ago I did all the estimates for the sewers, for water lines, for rough-ins, for remodel work. I did all the estimates.
Right.
And I had an install crew, but then we got away from that with service. And during the recession, I went back to that.
Right.
And built up a crew again. And then probably 2017, 18 or so, we gave that up again and went 100% service.
Right.
And now we're getting to the point where I run into techs that they don't want to sell. They don't want to sell, they just want to do. And then I have some techs I've got a tech that's going to sell and do $1 million by himself this year.
Right.
He's over $1 million as in plumbing, not HVAC, plumbing,
small items, which is that's not easy.
Yeah, and he's doing all of the work himself. What if we set him free to sell? Right. And then I keep
exactly.
Yeah, and I keep interviewing these guys that I just want to do the work. And it's well, I could probably add more people on if I would set him to sell, and these two guys just want a place to work.
Yeah, that's clearly where his skill set lies.
So we are considering right now. We're 100% service. We are considering. I think this next year we will start moving a couple people into more pure sales, and then bring on a couple install guys to do the work that they sell.
Right. That's unbelievable amount of service.
Because that will just open up our market, right?
You've built up the part that takes the longest to build up. It takes a lot longer to build up a service department than it does retrofit department. You can grow quite rapidly. I think if you ever wanted to get into a lot more residential replacements, you have the hard foundation, right? When you have a big service team, that's the toughest part to manage. It's much slower, bigger jobs. If you're doing, two guys, one day they do one residential install, and one team can add X million or millions per year type thing. It's like it'd be very fast to blow out that side of the business too, because you've already done the hard part.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
So we'll see.
Since you're 100% service, and okay, what I'm curious about is that, let's say I'm a homeowner in your service area, my hot water tank's not working, my boiler's not working, or I need something done with my drain, and I need somebody to come fix it. How are these people finding you?
Well, we're online. About 5 years ago, there's a couple of big transitions that happened. About 5 years ago, we realized that reviews were going to be the big deal. So
Right.
we came home, we looked up all the companies around, and we put everybody in order as far as how many reviews they had and their rating. And we just went after that. I paid everybody, I paid them $20 for a review and $100 to whoever got the most this week, but they had to tell us how they did it. So that $100 bill, you got 7 reviews, everybody else, no one else got 7. So you're the champion. Not for you. Here's $100, but you got to stand up and tell us how you did it. And they started telling us funny scripts, like what they'd say, they'd say funny things or whatever worked for them. But then that would translate. Other guys would try stuff out and try to figure out what they were saying to get reviews. And really the common denominator is the person that asks for the review sincerely gets it.
Right. So what you're finding,
what'd you do? And it's like, I just asked for it. Like, how'd you ask for it? Well, I just said what I always say.
Do you get them to say, hey, would you give me a review? But really it goes to the company. Is that the scripting that you encourage them?
It'd really do me a personal favor if you could write a review and let my boss know what you thought.
Personalize it. Interesting.
Yeah, they don't care about the company.
Yeah.
And so we did that. And so what's happening is, just like we look up reviews at a restaurant before we go, plumbers are doing the same thing. Techs are doing the same thing. Before they go in there, before they look at a company, they'll look at the reviews and
you're
see
still
reviews.
optimizing reviews, going back to your driving more people to your business to work for you. So interesting. Everything is optimized around that. So
yeah,
it's
so you found that
the guys that are like, well, I did everything. I won in every employment site. I won in everything, but they're doing nothing to sell themselves as a business. And you're full. Anyways, carry on.
Yeah, well, I'm obviously the more technical side of things here. I'm thinking that, so by you getting more reviews on, I'm assuming your Google My Business listing, is that you found that the algorithm has rewarded you to get you higher up in search results because of that.
Yes.
Right. Well, yeah. Great. I mean,
we wanted to be the #1 in Seattle, and we were. Then we're #1 in the greater Seattle area, and then we became #2 in the state. There was one person on the other side of the state that had a couple hundred more than us. And then we got the 2 locations. And so now we're building reviews on 2 locations. So we're not quite, we're starting, I think we're probably 3rd or 4th.
You're there. I'm pulling it up right now.
We're probably 3rd or 4th in the greater Seattle area at the moment.
You are, I mean, this thing jumps up and down, but you're right there. You're in the 3-pack. So as soon as somebody goes on their mobile, you're sitting right there.
2.2 with a 4.8 rating.
4.8, which is
so see, that's the number. That's the top one right there, right? Someone else has 486 reviews, but we got 2.2K.
Huge.
I mean, that can be that can also be where because of where Steve's searching from too. That what's in the top 3 or where they are in the top 3 can vary.
But generally, we're on that front page 2 or 3 times when you pull up anything. We're on that front page 2 or 3 times.
Oh, very cool.
That's very cool.
Just something that we like to wrap up on is if you were to advise, let's say somebody's in Montana, some kid, he's got some license, he wants to, 2 options, either work for you, tell him how they can reach out to you, or the other one is, how would you advise him if he wants to have his own business where he is? What should he be interested in? What should he be worried about? What should he be focusing on? What is your advice for a young guy either starting? And then also let's circle back to how people can contact you. So.
I think literally create the best at work environment. Like, the customer is not first, the plumber's first. The customer is very, very important.
That could be the tagline to start this thing. That's interesting.
The customer's not first. They're very, very important. We treat them like gold. I would, like, we do 1 call at a time is the next thing. And if I have a tech at 3:30 that wants to go home and I've got 2 more calls, I would rather have an upset customer than an upset plumber.
Wow.
So, and that's opposite, right? We spend so much on marketing, right? You guys are marketing. We spend so much on marketing, it's counterintuitive. We want to ring out every call for every dollar we spent. We spent so much money. But what's going to happen if you force that plumber to go on that last call of the day? It will never work out, because he'll either go out there and blow it off, fix it for free. So he'll either work for free so he doesn't have to do paperwork and can still be home on time, or he'll be rude. He'll do the work, but he'll be rude and obnoxious, not ask for review and not clean up after himself. So you have a bad customer service experience. Or he is so ethical and so loyal to you that he will do a perfect job. He'll get home at 7 o'clock and his wife will be angry at you.
Yes.
He missed dinner because he said he was going to be home on time today. But once again, you made him go on a call, and now his wife's upset with you.
The lose, lose, lose. There's no
It doesn't work. So I would rather lose a customer than a good tech. And so I said, I've got these 2 calls for you. I know you're behind goal. You choose. I expect that a person's mortgage and personal bills and responsibilities are going to help him manage his workload. And so if he's got bills to pay and debts to pay off and a mortgage to make, he's going to take a call if I've got it for him, right?
Do you treat it that way even throughout the day? Kind of like, hey, do you want to drive this far? Like, I mean, how much do you not push them even like throughout the day? Is there times that you do need to push them?
A little bit rarely. Like, we typically have too many calls, so we get to cherry pick all day long.
Right.
And so we cherry pick all day long. We're on the same page. One thing I got to constantly tell the plumbers is, no, we're on the same page. I want you to make as much money as you can so I can make money as I can. I'm not giving you a dead call on, if it's a bad call, it's because we just got to go. Like, we've rescheduled them 3 times. They're a loyal customer. It's a callback.
Yeah.
You got to go. But other than that, I'm choosing the 18-year-old water heater that's leaking over the 2-year-old water heater that just doesn't have any heat for some reason. I'm going to choose the best call for both of us. We're on the same team. It's not office against field. It's
so fascinating. Inbound work is not an issue for you at all. The entire game is building your team. This is a absolutely fascinating conversation.
Yeah, we just recently had a little slow times where 2 or 3 o'clock there might not only be a couple calls left, and it really freaked people out because it's so rare. They're like, what's wrong? I'm like, well, it's beautiful weather in October in Seattle. Like, people don't want a plumber out. Like, or people are freaked out about the economy. So we only have 2 calls for everybody instead of 5, right? Or whatever. It's like, so, but it's very rare, and it's so rare that people don't really know what to do with it, and it kind of freaks people out. But yes, generally we're cherry picking all day long, and then we're rescheduling calls at the end of the day.
Wow, that's totally different. I mean, to be able to cherry pick calls, I mean, you're gonna have, I mean, there's thousands of business that would love to be in that situation to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's also, yeah, so all that advice is, as fast as you can, get your person answering the phone different than the person scheduling the calls. Because if the dispatcher, the perfect day for the dispatcher is that they don't have to reschedule any calls, they can make all their appointments, right? And so, but that's not the perfect call for the tech. That's not the perfect day for the tech or the customer or the CSRs, right? But so we have our department separate. So the CSRs are constantly answering the phone and booking appointments.
And that's what they want to optimize for.
Yeah. And then the dispatchers are cherry picking
away because they're worried about the schedule. Don't make them the same person. That's an interesting tidbit.
Yeah. The trick is that it turns into the dispatcher's got the hardest job in the company. That's the only flaw, is now that dispatcher has to call that customer and say, unfortunately, we're not going to make it. And so we got to reschedule that. And what we do is, if we reschedule somebody once, we'll prioritize it when they reschedule again. Like if they schedule for tomorrow, we're going to make that a top priority and we're going to get out there. But it's a kind of balancing act. But yeah, the dispatcher in that scenario, the dispatcher starts to become a really important role, and you really have to take care of your dispatcher because it's essential that they.
Dispatcher wants to go home at 3:30 because they don't want to be there anymore. Is that possible too?
Yeah, yeah, they can. We also have had that where they reschedule calls too fast, and then there's not enough. But yeah, that's the tricky part.
No, this is being fantastic. I think there's a lot more stuff that we could even cover on like another podcast at some point in time. This is
definitely
really, really good. I think, yeah, there's
Awesome.
niche knowledge that you have that guys should learn. But if you want to dig into like all the different ways that people can reach out to you, how they can find you, and Cary, what am I not covering here? I usually say.
Well, I was going to say before that is that Dennis, tell us about your podcast and anybody else that wants to listen to it.
Absolutely. So how that all started, just briefly, is I was we're all having a hard time finding young people. And so instead of complaining about it, or you have people like Mike Rowe saying, get a dirty job. But then once you get there, there's no organization, right? Like if you go to college, there's a syllabus, take this class, buy this book, read this book, do this. Here's quarterlies, here's semifinals, here's the finals, right? But in the trades, often it's just go to work. And so Dennis the Apprentice, I have the same issues that everybody else has. And so that's inspired by if you listen to Dennis the Apprentice on Instagram or TikTok now, you'll know what's going on in my company about the issues that are coming. It's kind of fun. I try to keep it like 2 or 3 days away from the incident, so I'm not talking about a person necessarily, just an issue. But that's inspired by real life events. And so on the way to work, I just think about what happened yesterday. What could someone be helped by? And I do a little tidbit like how to be a better apprentice, how to rock your apprenticeship. And then that's just kind of taken off. And then the Zoom Brain franchise invited me to the Wet Show last year, and they set up a podcast booth in their big booth. They had a big booth with a truck and everything. And I don't have a huge following, but I'm the only one talking to apprentices. There's no Dennis the Apprentice is the only one that's specifically focused on apprentices. And so it's kind of weird, but it seems like everybody knows me. Even these big influencers that have huge followings know of me, right? And they've seen my stuff and they think it's good because it is, right? Like we've got to teach these apprentices and no one else is doing it. And so it's a unique message and a unique angle in the market. And so I'm not talking about the sales. I'm not talking about how to run your business. There's so many people talking about how to grow your business and be business coaches and that kind of thing. And so I got this niche, even though I love to talk about this, right? And maybe I will talk about it more, but right now I just focus on the apprentices. So I called all these influencers like George the plumber and Eric Ani with Mechanical Hub and all these bigger names, and they all said yes, and they came on my podcast, and it was an absolute blast. I've never podcasted before. I podcasted live all day for 2 days at the Wet Show, and it was an absolute blast. And so it was what it was, and they sent me all the files, and I didn't really have the podcast up yet. And then here I am. I'm the president of PHCC. I've never been to the PHCC National Connect Trade Show. I'm like, I should probably be there. And then I look at the trade show, and there's a 10x10 available, and I just jumped. I just said yes, and I called them up. They got me a booth across from, because at the show, there's an apprentice competition. There's a plumbing and HVAC apprentice competition at the PHCC Connect Trade Show every year. So I thought Dennis the Apprentice needs to be there. And so I got right across from the competition. I got my own booth, and I had my own backdrop and everything. I think you guys, Steve, you saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
It was World, right?
Yep.
So that was the first time. I was scared to death. I'm like, here I am doing this podcast, and like, who am I to do a podcast? I have the smallest followers of any influencer. I'm not really an influencer. And yet we put this podcast up, and then I was concerned that my neighbors would be upset that I've got all these lights and this video cameras and I'm talking, there's a speaker out there. But it turned out my neighbors were big fans of it and thought it was totally cool. And so LMH, they're a marketing firm, and they started telling them, go talk to Dennis the Apprentice. Are you a plumber? Yeah, you should go on his show. And they just stuffed my schedule. And so I had 17 interviews at PHCC Connect.
Wow.
And it was awesome. And I was exhausted when I was done, but it was so fun to meet other people that are passionate about apprenticeships. Like how do we get young people in? How do we encourage them? How do we find them? How do we treat them? What can they do to impress us? What can they do to not impress us? Like this whole topic that no one's talking about. Yet we're all upset about it, right? We're all upset about how do we find good young people? And then what do we do when we get them? So then I looked at Service World. We were already going to Service World. And I came home. I had my daughter with me. I talked my daughter into going with me to PACC Connect, but then she couldn't go to the Service World. So I talked my wife into going. I said no. And then I just had this thing in my gut that I should go. Like, why? I'm going to go there and I'm going to wish I had gone. So then we went to Service World too. And so this is the start of my podcast. I've not done podcasts except at the Wet Show that one time. And then now, and then I woke up before I made my decision to Service World. I woke up, I had jet lag. So I'm here in Seattle. It's 2:30 in the morning. I'm wide awake and I go on TikTok and some influencer guy said, now is the best time ever to start a podcast. Right now. And so I'm like, what am I doing saying no to Service World? So I look it up and they've got a 10x10 there, one left. So I just called up and bought it and I went. So yeah, I really liked it. And I want to keep going. And what I want to do, I want to invite all my plumbers and apprentices here onto it. I'm going to set up my background and everything. I'm going to have them on and interview them about what they like about working here and what do they like about what's their favorite plumber and why is he their favorite and what's your not favorite plumber and so you're not your favorite.
And it's like one more hook you're adding onto your pipeline of attracting talent, because somebody will see that they live in Miami and be like, hey, that guy seems like a really good guy. I'd probably be buddies with that guy if I was there. And it's like one more draw. Interesting. Let people get to know your staff. Fascinating. Absolutely.
And the whole idea is that yeah, people are moving to Seattle all the time, right?
Yeah.
So when a plumber realizes he's moving to Seattle and he looks up and he sees what's going on, he's seen my podcast and seen my stuff. He's more familiar with me than anybody. And what's the weirdest thing, guys, about this, all this social media stuff is we are who we, like Steve, you're the guy I met at Service World.
Yep.
Right. And when we see each other again, it's the same thing. We'll have this relationship. And so that's what's so cool is when someone's been following me and then we meet in person, we're still the same people. And so people can build a loyalty and an appreciation and they want to work for me and they've not even met me yet.
Exactly.
Because I am who I am.
Yep.
Right? It's not a show. And some people might think, well, I want to work for someone else. I want to work for more of a hard driver guy. Well, then we're probably not your company, right? But if you want to learn and be the very best, enjoy it and watch other people develop and get good around you and be a team, then we're probably the best place to be.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. I learned a ton from you. This is excellent.
Yeah. So if somebody out there who's a plumber wants to come, apply to work with you, what can they do?
Yeah, so just my cell phone number is 206-947-8245. I text a lot, and you can look up Gene Johnson Plumbing with a G in Seattle and look at our website. And there's if you go to YouTube, I think there's a place online where you can apply, and there'll be a bunch of YouTube videos, and you can see there's a YouTube video almost every week highlighting one of our techs. There's something going on at our company, and you can kind of see the culture and how cool the techs are, and even the apprentices. Our youngest apprentices are on there a lot of times, and so you can get to know us on our website or social media. If you want to follow my stuff, I have DennisTheApprentice.com, where you can see all my social media and all the podcasts, and you can find the podcast from there. So GeneJohnsonPlumbing.com or DennisTheApprentice.com. You can find out all about our company.
We'll put all those links in the description below wherever we're posting this, whether it's YouTube, Rumble, whatever. Also, lastly, if somebody's listening to this in your service area and they're looking for plumbing help, they're looking for drain help, and that they're not a plumber in that industry right now, but need your help, how do they contact you for that?
Our main phone number is 206-789-6610. They call, we answer the phone 24/7. We've got 6 people answering the phones. If they don't answer, there's an overflow system that catches them and answers. We have live answering service all the time. So there's never a voice, there's never a message machine. And then we can always get to people the same day, especially the urgent stuff. So like when I talk about rescheduling calls, those are not urgent stuff, right? If it's causing damage, someone has no heat, no hot water, they got a leak, we're going to get out there right away. But so many calls are drippy faucets, been dripping for 2 or 3 weeks. And those people most are usually, if we can't get to them today, they'll reschedule for tomorrow, and they're understanding that it's not really an emergency. And we've got another emergency to get to, but we can service everybody, and we get to everybody that wants us to get to them.
This is great. I've learned so much from you here, and this is a totally different philosophy than of many business owners that we've talked to, and it's fantastic. It's enlightening, and I think there's a lot of these business owners and even apprentices or techs or journeyman techs can learn just from listening to this podcast and listening to you.
Like, it's a very common question we get asked from customers is, what can we do to get more employees, or how can you help me, or whatever else. I'm going to send them a copy of this recording of this podcast. This is
awesome.
And also send them to you, right? Just to start following exactly what you say. So this is
sure.
great.
And we're glad to help. We're very open booked. And so I had a plumber a year or two ago. He was vacationing here, and he asked if he could come spend 2 days with me while his wife did other stuff. And I said, sure. And so he came and hung out with me for 2 days. And so we're an open book. We're glad to help. It's a rising tide helps all boats, right? And so we're glad to help whoever needs it.
I love it. Thank you, Dennis.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dennis. Fantastic. Thank you for being on here.
Awesome. Yeah. Have a great day. Thanks for having me on.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah.